But we begin with a surprising turn of events in a Washington courtroom today. We were expecting to see Donald Trump's first national security advisor, Michael Flynn, sentenced for lying to the FBI. Instead, it was delayed after the judge blasted Flynn and wondered if he should have been charged with treason. Last hour, the White House responded by distancing Trump from Flynn's crimes.
The activities that he has said to, and again, we'll let the court make that determination, to have engaged in don't have anything to do with the president. Let's remember what the whole thing that this started is supposed to be about. It's whether or not Russia influenced the election and whether or not the president had anything to do with it. We know that that Russia tried to create chaos within the election, but certainly not that they actually impacted it. The only reason that the president is the president is because he was a better candidate and beat Hillary Clinton.
The CBC's Ellen Morrow has been following developments in the story all day in Washington. So, Ellen, let's start with this extraordinary hearing. Tell us more about what happened.
Well, Andrew, this morning we thought it would be a pretty smooth and perhaps short appearance for Michael Flynn. All the speculation was that he would receive a very lenient sentence or perhaps no prison time at all. And that's because a few weeks ago, Special Counsel Robert Mueller put out a sentencing memo saying that Flynn had provided substantial assistance to the Russia investigation and that in exchange for that assistance, he should receive little to no jail time. So with Robert Mueller seemingly on Michael Flynn's side in regards to the sentence, this morning we thought was going to be, short and sweet for Michael Flynn, but that's not what happened. Instead, he went into the courtroom and the judge really berated Flynn for lying to the FBI in January of 2017. He said essentially that Michael Flynn had sold out his country. The judge said that he was not going to hide his disgust or disdain for the crime that Michael Flynn had committed. Now, in the midst of this angry rebuke of Michael Flynn, the judge said to his lawyers, "Are you sure you want me to go ahead with sentencing today? Are you sure you don't want to put it back?" And initially, Flynn said, yes, we do want to go ahead with this today, but sensing that perhaps the judge was poised to give Flynn jail time, judging by his comments towards Flynn, the defense team said, actually, if we could have a delay in the sentencing, we would appreciate that. The prosecution agreed, and so the sentencing will happen at some date in the future. Now, the sentencing delay gives Michael Flynn an opportunity. It gives him an opportunity to further cooperate with federal investigators. We know he's provided substantial assistance to the Russia investigation. That's what Robert Mueller himself said in court documents. We also know that he's been providing cooperation in other unspecified criminal investigations. So this delay allows Flynn to cooperate further and perhaps convince this judge that he does in fact deserve the lenient sentence that Robert Mueller says he does.
We heard a little bit from Sarah Sanders a minute ago. How is the White House reacting to what happened with Michael Flynn today?
Well, Sarah Sanders said, we heard her in that clip really highlighting that what Michael Flynn pleaded guilty to, she says, does not have anything to do with President Trump. But there are also questions about how the White House may be complicating things for Michael Flynn. And one of those ways is this narrative that's being pushed by Sarah Sanders that Flynn was essentially ambushed by the FBI in his interview because they didn't flag to him that lying to them, FBI agents, would be illegal. It's a narrative that she put forward on Fox News this morning before the court appearance, and she said it again this afternoon after the court appearance as well. Here's what she said.
What we do know that was inappropriate by own self-admittance of James Comey is that the FBI broke standard protocol in the way that they came in and ambushed General Flynn, and in the way that they questioned him, and in the way that they encouraged him not to have White House counsel's office present. And we know that because James Comey told us that.
Now, why this is problematic, Andrew, is because it's, probably fair to say that Michael Flynn would know that lying to the FBI in an interview is illegal without having to be told that. And the judge this morning really took that view as well, saying to Michael Flynn, essentially, did you know that lying to the FBI would be a crime? And Flynn had to say in court, yes, I did know it was a crime. I do know I committed a crime. So the White House put forward this narrative, and then Flynn in court was directly asked about about it and had to say, no, that's not true. I knew what I was doing is wrong. So a lot of questions about, why the White House is choosing to weigh in this way. And it is complicating matters for Michael Flynn, because it did mean this morning that he had to answer to something that the White House itself had been putting forward.
Ellen, thank you. The CBC's Ellen Morrow in Washington. We've turned to an expert to interpret today's developments. Arun Rao is a former U.S. federal prosecutor. He's currently president of the risk advisory firm Investigative Group International in Washington.
The delay suggests that Judge Sullivan was prepared to sentence the defendant to possibly some jail time today. As was previously noted, both the defense and the prosecution were recommending a non-incarceratory sentence. And it's fairly unusual for federal courts to sentence defendants to jail when both the defendant and the prosecution are recommending a non-jail sentence. That said, it does happen. And I think in this case, Judge Sullivan, who's known for being exceptionally independent-minded, was strongly suggesting that the defendant, Mr. Flynn, may end up serving some jail time today, and that he should consider requesting a delay in sentencing if there was additional cooperation to be conducted that might result in additional reduction to the sentence that the judge was contemplating.
Were you starting to get the impression that the judge was going to sentence Flynn to jail time, given some of the language? Judge Emmett Sullivan told Michael Flynn, arguably you sold your country out. I mean, these were strong words. These were harsh words from the judge, and I think given his tone, the language that he was using, and the repeated suggestions that Judge Flynn takes some, General Flynn takes some time to consult with his attorneys about a potential delay, all suggested that Judge Sullivan was strongly considering the possibility of imposing some jail time. So the delay on sentencing is until March. What could happen between now and then? There could be additional meetings. I have been struck by the number of meetings that General Flynn is said to have had with the government. 19? 19 to date. And so to the extent there is a possibility that he'll be needed to testify in future proceedings, it would not be uncommon for him to meet with the government to prepare for potential testimony, things of that nature. So Trump continues to stand by, that there was no collusion. Given how this special investigation is proceeding, is that proving to be true? Special Counsel Mueller has conducted his investigation out of public eye in a lot of respects. I think there is a desire to speculate on what he knows and where the investigation is headed, but there remains much that we don't know about this investigation. And so I think it's very difficult for those of us sitting outside to have a good sense as to the length of the investigation, where it's headed, and what the ultimate result of that investigation might be. And that's Arun Rao. He's a former U.S. federal prosecutor, and he spoke to us from Washington.